Welcome, students, to today's Explainer. We're going to dive straight into the fascinating ways chemists decode and represent the actual literal building blocks of our universe. You know, whether you're looking at a glass of water, the screen of your device, or the DNA inside your own cells, it all just comes down to specific combinations of atoms. But how do we actually talk about them? Well, today, we're going to learn the language of chemistry.
So think about this for a second. How do chemists take the invisible, three-dimensional world of atoms and somehow translate it onto a flat piece of paper? It's a pretty monumental challenge, right? We're dealing with microscopic, super complex 3D structures that dictate literally everything about how our physical world behaves. To communicate these structures accurately and efficiently in a 2D space, scientists had to invent an entirely new universal language. Here's our syllabus for today. First, we'll cover the language of chemistry. Then we'll look at visualizing molecular structures. After that, we'll simplify things by finding the empirical formula, look at how isomers bend the rules, and finally, we'll wrap up with the future of chemical design.
Okay, Section 1. The language of chemistry, building the foundation. Every great language starts with an alphabet and some basic grammar rules, right? Well, in chemistry, our alphabet is the periodic table. And our grammar? That's the formulas we use to combine those letters.
Let's look at our most basic grammatical tool, the molecular formula. This is just a representation using chemical symbols to indicate the exact types of atoms, followed by little subscripts to show the actual number of each atom in a molecule. The absolutely crucial thing to remember here is that a subscript is only used when there is more than one atom of that specific type present. So if you just see a letter, like C for carbon, it means there's exactly one. But if you see an O with a little 2 stuck at the bottom, boom, you've got 2 oxygen atoms. Simple enough, right?
Now, what's really interesting is that some elements just do not like to be alone in nature. Elements like hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen naturally exist as what we call diatomic molecules. Di meaning 2. They literally pair up. When you take a deep breath of oxygen, you aren't breathing in individual lonely O atoms, you're breathing O2, 2 oxygen atoms chemically bonded together. The whole halogen group, like fluorine and chlorine, does this too. And then you've got an overachiever like sulfur, which is polyatomic. Its most common form is actually S8. That's a totally unique structure of 8 bonded sulfur atoms all hanging out together.
Okay, let me warn you about a very common trap that trips up a lot of chemistry students. Take the formula 2H. That big number in front is a coefficient, and it means you have 2 completely separate, uncombined hydrogen atoms just floating around independently. But contrast that with H2. That tiny subscript means those 2 hydrogen atoms are physically bonded together into a single diatomic molecule. To stretch this even further, if I said 2H2, it would mean we have 2 distinct molecules, each made of 2 bonded hydrogen atoms. So location really matters. A big number in front changes the quantity, a small number below changes the actual physical entity.
Moving on to Section 2. Visualizing molecular structures, connecting the dots. Now that we know exactly how many atoms we're dealing with, it's time to figure out how they actually fit together.
You see, a molecular formula tells us the what and the how many, but it leaves us totally blind as to the how. And that is where the structural formula comes in. A structural formula gives you the exact same info as a molecular formula, but it brilliantly adds the critical dimension of connectivity by using lines to represent the chemical bonds. Think of it this way. The molecular formula is like a list of building materials from the hardware store, say 100 bricks and 10 planks of wood. The structural formula is the actual architectural blueprint that shows you exactly where to place those materials to build your house. And we can actually take this visualization even further. Let's look at methane, which has the molecular formula CH4. Once we draw out the structural formula with its lines and letters, we can then translate that into a 3D model. Chemists frequently use what's called a ball and stick model, which perfectly illustrates the geometric arrangement and the angles of the bonds. Or they'll use a space-filling model, which gives a much more realistic view of the relative sizes of the atoms and how they pack together in space. Honestly, it's the closest thing to actually seeing the molecule in the microscopic world. All right, let's shift gears for Section 3, finding the empirical formula, the simplest ratio. Sometimes in chemistry, we don't need the exact detailed molecular blueprint. We just need the most stripped-down, basic ratio of the ingredients.
Let's lock in our definition here. An empirical formula indicates the types of atoms present, but it strictly gives us the simplest whole number ratio of those atoms in the compound. If a molecular formula is the exact recipe you need to bake a giant cake for 12 people, the empirical formula is just the base ratio of flour to sugar to eggs. It represents the fundamental, stripped-down mathematical relationship between the elements in that specific substance.
To anchor this abstract concept in the real world, let's look at titanium dioxide. You probably know it as that thick, pasty white sunscreen you see lifeguards wearing on their noses, or maybe as the pigment used in white paint. Its empirical formula is TiO2. What this means is that no matter how large a crystal of titanium dioxide you have, whether it's a microscopic speck or a giant boulder, the fundamental composition is governed by a strict 1:2 ratio. For every single titanium atom, there are exactly 2 oxygen atoms.
Okay, let's do a little bit of math together. Imagine I'm up at the chalkboard. If we know a compound's molecular formula, reducing it down to its empirical formula is incredibly straightforward. Let's take acetic acid. That's the chemical that gives vinegar its sharp, acidic taste. Step 1, identify the molecular formula, which is C2H4O2. Step 2, we pull out the ratio of those atoms. That's 2 carbon, 4 hydrogen, and 2 oxygen. So 242. Step 3, we look for the lowest common denominator to divide them all by. In this case, they're obviously all divisible by 2. Step 4, divide 242 by 2, and we get 121. So our final empirical formula for vinegar is CH2O.
Let's reinforce that with a rapid-fire second example. Take glucose, the blood sugar that literally fuels your body. Its molecular formula is C6H12O6. The actual molecule literally contains 6 carbons, 12 hydrogens, and 6 oxygens. But if we want the empirical formula, we just find the simplest whole number ratio. Divide 6, 12, and 6 by the lowest common denominator, which is 6, and you get 1, 2, 1. Therefore, the empirical formula is CH2O. But wait a minute. Does CH2O sound familiar? Yup, it's the exact same empirical formula we just found for vinegar. This perfectly illustrates a massive, fundamental rule in chemistry. A molecular formula is always just a whole number multiple of its empirical formula.
Which brings us to Section 4, Isomers. Same atoms, different rules. Because as you are about to see, the actual arrangement of atoms changes absolutely everything.
I want to test your chemical insight here. Think about acetic acid again, C2H4O2. That's 2 carbon atoms, 4 hydrogen atoms, and 2 oxygen atoms. If I handed you those exact 8 atoms like a set of Legos, do you think you could rearrange them, snap them together differently, and form a compound that is entirely different from vinegar?
Well, if you guessed yes, you are absolutely correct. You've just discovered isomers. Isomers are compounds that have the exact same chemical formula, literally the exact same pile of atomic building blocks, but completely different molecular structures. And as a result, they have wildly different physical and chemical properties. It turns out, in chemistry, the way you build the structure is just as important as the materials you use.
This brilliantly illustrates just how extreme those differences can be. Take our familiar acetic acid, C2H4O2. It makes a super tasty vinaigrette for your salad. But now compare that to methyl formate. Its formula is also perfectly C2H4O2, but because one of the oxygen atoms is placed just slightly differently between the 2 carbon atoms, the entire nature of the chemical changes. Methyl formate is used in heavy manufacturing for quick-drying finishes and even as a toxic insecticide. A tiny structural shift literally makes the difference between a delicious salad and a lethal poison. Crazy, right?
Let's wrap things up with Section 5, the future of chemical design, apping chemistry. Now that we've mastered the language, let's take these foundational concepts and apply them to the absolute cutting edge of modern science.
Consider this incredible quote from chemist Lee Cronin during a 2012 TED Talk. He asks if we could create a universal chemistry set by kind of apping chemistry. He said, "What Apple did for music, I'd like to do for the discovery and distribution of prescription drugs." Because chemists essentially reverse engineer complicated molecular structures down to their simplest parts, Cronin sees a future where molecular formulas aren't just something we decode, they are something we actually code ourselves.
Cronin's whole vision relies on the very structural formulas we learned about today. He imagines a collection of basic chemical inks hooked up to a 3D printer that's actually capable of running tiny chemical reactions. If you know the exact structural blueprint of a medicine, you could theoretically download it just like an app, and your printer would arrange the atoms precisely into the necessary molecular formulas. This means we could fabricate custom-tailored drugs configured specifically to your unique genetic makeup and environment, right from your living room.
Which leaves us with this final, inspiring thought. By learning the language of chemistry, by understanding molecular and empirical formulas,
predicting structural connections, and mastering isomers, we are quite literally taking control of the physical universe. So, as we learn to decode and perfectly rearrange the chemical formulas around us, what custom molecule would you choose to 3D print in the future? Thank you so much for attending today's explainer class. Keep asking